I'm Bill Auten of Auten Claims Management.
I'm Chantal Roberts of CMR Consulting, and welcome to the Art of Adjusting podcast.
Today, we're going to talk about life as an insurance adjuster from the perspective of property, auto, liability, or workers' compensation adjusters. Our goal is to bring interesting topics in the world of claims adjusting to people who are working as an adjuster now and to people who are considering a career as a claims adjuster. Chantal, good morning. Today, we have a fun episode and a fun guest.
Yes, we do. Yes, I have always wanted to say, like, this guest needs no introduction. And it's kind of true in this case because I was talking to my husband about who we were talking to. And I said, we're going to talk to Barry Zalma today. And he goes, that name sounds so familiar. And I'm like, fraud. And he goes, that's it. That is
Yeah.
that is who we are, talking to today. And I'm like, yay, this is great. So, Barry has more than 56 years in the industry. He is an attorney. He's been an adjuster. He is very prolific in publishing. In fact, oh man, I meant to grab my book to show you. Like, look, I have like an ear-dogged book of the what is it? The
Compact book on
yes,
adjusting property claims.
yes, and I have like the second edition, and you said that it was up to the fourth now,
It's
which
up to the fourth.
I absolutely cannot believe. And so, I mean, like, I would say right now, just put us on pause. I'm never going to say that ever again, but put us on pause. Go follow him on LinkedIn. We're going to have all of his, uh, what's it called? Emails and websites and newsletters and all of that sort of thing and the show notes. So go follow him so that you can become as smart, if not smarter, than Bill and me put together. So and Barry's probably forgotten more than Bill and me have put together.
You
Oh, yeah,
keep
for sure.
flattering me like this, Chantal, and I'm going to just go home and quit.
So Barry, welcome. Welcome to the podcast.
I am working on the 15th edition of the property investigation checklists,
Oh my goodness.
which I started at the 12th and rewrote the whole book. And that's published by Thomson Reuters. But other than that, I just keep doing my blog every day. And
Every
twice a
day.
month, I do my newsletter on insurance fraud. And the rest of the time, I spend helping lawyers deal with insurance claim litigation,
Yeah,
which is
absolutely. Absolutely.
quite good.
So I'm going to turn it over now. Bill.
Yeah. So, Barry, you have written so prolifically. You've got so many books. Your blog posts every day. Your little videos I get by email. I watch them all the time. And you know, I've been doing this a long time, so a lot of the stuff that you talk about, I'm familiar with, but it's so refreshing to hear somebody else, kind of hit the high notes on the things that we do as adjusters. And of course, I do also learn a lot from you. I encourage younger adjusters to pay attention to what you have to say. And so you're covering fraud, bad faith, coverage, and adjusters' duties. Um, why are you so interested in these topics? This is kind of what you've built all your library out of.
Bill, when I was released from the U.S. Army back into civilian life back in 1967, I'd been an investigator in the Army for 3 years and had actually been taught how to investigate, how to ask questions, how to interview without interrogating. And I wanted to keep doing that. And I applied for jobs at banks and insurance companies because they had investigators. And the bankers told me, don't talk to banks, you'll make more money working for an insurance company. And so I became a trainee adjuster in 1967 with the Fireman's Fund. And They paid me the munificent sum of $550 a month, which was about 3 times what I was making in the Army. So I felt that was pretty good money. They trained me. It took them a year of work to make me a fairly competent adjuster. They started out by putting me down with a famous book on insurance claims and made me sit at a desk and read it. And then they sent me out with their experienced adjusters to watch them adjust claims. And they started giving me small claims to deal with over the telephone just to get my feet wet. They sent me to a 1 month training school at their home office, which was difficult for me because the home office was in San Francisco and I was in law school in Los Angeles. And on $550 a month, flying back and forth to make classes was difficult. But we managed, and I became a claims person. And I really loved the work. I got to deal with people. As a trainee, I was put in charge of a catastrophe. I had no idea what I was doing, but I learned. And I dealt with claims managers all over the city because the catastrophe was a lightning bolt hit a storage tank full of 50,000 barrels of crude oil and set it afire.
Wow.
And there was a black oil-filled cloud from El Segundo to the LA harbor and out to sea. That's about 30 miles.
Wow.
And then it rained.
Oh, geez.
Every person with the car had oil on it. Every building
Wow.
had oil on it. And we'd refer them to their insurance companies because it's just a fire claim. And then they'd subrogate back. And Standard Oil honored every car wash
Wow.
that its Standard Oil customers had because of the oil, and they charged on their Standard Oil card. And
Wow.
the Fireman's Fund paid them. And the only claim we didn't get to a fire company was a mausoleum because they don't have fire insurance.
Wow. Do you remember what that first book was?
My first book?
No, the
Oh
book that,
no, yes, I I should remember it, but it's a famous old guy, and the book's still out.
really? Because I'm
And
thinking that is something to have in your library, you know?
yes, and
Uh,
I never got. They wouldn't let me keep it,
oh,
and I'm too cheap to go out and buy one because now I'm old and I
y-
can't remember the name.
oh, but no, you know what's going to happen is you're going to remember it like at midnight tonight. So just
Oh,
shoot me an
probably,
email. Shoot me
probably.
an
I must have
email.
started with a
Yes.
P, but I
You know, we have been talking about your books and how much you write and everything. And one of the favorite things that I love to do with your compact book on adjusting and property claims, and guys, I do recommend that y'all go buy that. Um, is page 8 and 9, where you state, literally, if we're taking our insurance policy literally, the carrier does not have to provide an adjuster to aid in the settlement of a claim. And I love blowing attorneys' minds about that. I just love seeing their little bitty brains just go poof. But
I,
and the thing is that you're right. Adjusters are not mentioned in the policy. The carrier could just sit back and wait for a claimant to turn in the necessary documents. And you know what? The concept never even occurred to me until I read your book, and you're 100% correct. How did you come up with that? Like, how did that, did you sleep, you couldn't fall asleep one night and then all of a sudden it came to
no,
you?
unfortunately, I had to deal with it. There's a California Supreme Court decision called White versus Home Mutual, which was decided in 1900. And Mr. White was 2 weeks late in submitting a proof of loss. And the Supreme Court agreed with the insurance company and the claim was denied, and he got nothing because he was 2 weeks late. Insurance companies are not crazy. They realized that you can't treat your insureds literally. They don't know diddle about insurance policies. Nobody reads insurance policies except people like you and me. And because, heck, I've written a few, and it's hard. It's really hard to write a clear and unambiguous insurance policy. But it was cases like that White versus Home Mutual, which every judge knows because it's on page 1 of volume 1 of the California Reporters, or it's close to that. I can't remember. I remember it's page 1, and I had a judge tell me when I mentioned it on the stand, she knew the page it was
Wow.
on. So she was, but that's why adjusters were born. There are adjusters because human beings cannot read an insurance policy. Human beings don't know what to do when their house burns down. It only happens once in a lifetime, if that. But to a good, experienced claims person, a fire to a residence is almost a weekly occurrence. So we as adjusters know what to do. We know how to set a scope and work with the insured to prove the loss so that everybody's happy.
If human beings can't read an insurance policy, does that mean we are not human beings, Barry?
No, that they can read it, they just won't because
It
they're
means
afraid. There's a lot of rotten politics about insurance policies being impossible to read. They're the easiest commercial contract I've ever read in my life. Have you ever read a commercial lease for a 300-story office building? Not a chance that you would understand that. But the publicity is that people can't understand insurance policies. They're written in Sesame Street English.
although, I mean, I talked to my RMI students about that, Barry, and I'm going to have you on this coming semester to talk to them. Because because we were actually talking about, I showed them the video that you did about page 8 and 9, where there's not the adjusters, and that you were saying adjusters are literally born because we can't. And Bill, I have an answer for you. We are nerds. We're not human beings. We're nerds, obviously, because we read insurance policies and we like it. I mean, obviously, that's what we're doing. But I think what you said, Barry, is so incredibly important for all of our listeners to hear, and not to listen to, but to actually hear and understand. Our career was invented to help people. And I'm going to go down with this ship saying that we in the insurance industry have forgotten that right now. And
Oh,
so
there's no question about it. As an expert, I am seeing claims handling that scares me. I'm mainly an insurance guy, and I keep ending up testifying for policyholders because, I mean, if you have a major fire loss, where maybe $2 or $3 million are involved, you'd expect an adjuster to show up and do the bare minimum, which is setting a scope of loss with the insured and starting the investigation. Insurance companies aren't letting their company adjusters, executive general adjusters, out of the office. In fact, they make them stay in their home office on a computer, handling 50 or 60 major claims without ever seeing the loss location or meeting the insured. The only person from the insurance company insureds ever meet are adjusters. They don't meet underwriters. They don't meet the executive salespeople who sell to the agents. They only meet the adjuster. And that is the best marketing tool any insurance company can get. A good, settled, quick, and efficient settlement. That's it.
They do get to meet Bill, because he
Mhm.
is a field adjuster.
Yeah.
But Bill, you are a little bit hybrid because I think you have some authority from your clients, but I know exactly what Barry is talking about because a lot of times these field appraisers or field adjusters don't have any authority when they go out and write. So again, we're kind of letting our insureds down. What do you think about that, Bill?
Yeah, I encountered that a lot on the property side when I was doing first party, where you had zero authority. You would go out and um, it was implied that you would write the estimate and send it to the carrier and not have any discussions about it with the policyholder, which bizarre. I mean, like that's not how you handle a claim. That's not how you settle a claim. Um, So I do believe that the carriers are a little misled here by I don't know what kind of management ideas they have about handling claims, but they're missing a great opportunity to have a dialogue with the policyholder. I recently had a collision claim on my vehicle, and I never even talked to an adjuster. I put the claim information in through a cell phone app, and then I uploaded photos to the collision shop. I talked to the shop guy a lot, but I never talked to an adjuster. I had one phone message from an adjuster um, to remind me to take the truck into the collision shop, but there was parts delay and stuff. So
Oh,
they
well,
paid the shop directly, and I never, encountered anybody from that insurance company.
Is that not, Barry? Is that not a violation of our good faith or unfair claims trade practices where it says that we, as adjusters or carriers, need to A, explain the coverages to the insureds, B, make contact, stay in contact with them if we can't settle within a set amount of time? Is that not? Because I mean, I think everybody
They
believes if
did
I
that
just,
though. They did that. It was all automated.
yeah,
yes,
It was I got the first contact, I got the coverage information, but it was all automated. There
yeah,
was nobody.
everything's done by email,
Mhm.
uh, and nobody sees anybody. And I know why. Uh, it happened. It started about 20 years ago, maybe a little longer. Insurance companies got involved with people who have masters of business administration.
thank you. Yes.
And those people only judge what is happening on a quarter of a year benefit. Insurance is a quarter of a century business. If you make a profit in 25 years, in average, you're a success in insurance. The MBAs want it in a quarter. So what did they start doing? They cut expenses because you can't cut indemnity. And so they fired all of their good, experienced adjusters who they were paying 100 grand a year and replaced them with kids straight out of college who had never seen an insurance policy, let alone read one. And a 22-year-old kid is told, you're an adjuster. Here's a checkbook. You could write any check over $2,500 you like and go out and adjust claims. And if you have a question, ask your supervisor, who, of course, has 2 years' experience. And the expense costs went way down. What they didn't realize was the indemnity costs went up to the ceiling.
Yes.
And
It's a self-feeding.
now I write now I write 30 and 40-page expert reports to federal courts explaining all the things that the adjuster should have done but did not do. And it's, I just love being cross-examined. I, I'll tell one
It
story.
is great fun.
I
Really, I hate it.
Boy.
oh no,
I hate it. This is the
I love
reason.
picking on young lawyers. I'm sorry. The
This is
one
the reason why I
cross-examine,
don't like being an expert witness. I love writing the reports,
uh,
because like you, Barry, in fact, I made an attorney just absolutely faint because my normal reports are about 50 pages
yeah,
because I go into such detail and everything. And so the deposition, I don't understand why we're having a deposition because it's all in my report. Anyway, y'all go ahead.
doesn't work that way.
I
I
know.
once wrote an article and expanded it into one of my books that it's time to put a stake through the heart of the tort of bad faith. And I'm on the witness stand for a policyholder, and the lawyer reads to me from my article, and he says, "Do you agree with that?" I said, "Of course I agree with it. I wrote it. So why are you here testifying for a policyholder in a bad faith case?" And my response, of course, was because of people like you and your client who do these terrible things to prove me wrong.
Exactly. You we all know the expert
He came back
Kevin.
with $6 million, by the way.
Yes. We all know the expert Kevin Quinley. And I wrote
Kevin's
a
a great guy.
oh, love him to death. And I wrote a book, The Art of Adjusting, and Kevin actually uses that book when he represents plaintiffs, policyholders, and he goes, "This is a great book for the plaintiff, bar." And I kind of like you, Barry. I'm like, but it's not really. All I'm doing is calling the insurance companies to task. Like, I would love to put myself out of business. This is why Bill and I do this podcast. We are trying to educate the adjusters because the carriers are not spending any money on education like they used to.
No,
Like
they
you
don't
said,
even, they've closed their training schools.
yes. And, so I'm like, okay, let's give it to them for free or whatever. And like, let's do the right thing. And it's funny that book is considered to be plaintiff leaning when really all I'm trying to do is get them to be doing the right thing. Because if they did the right thing, there would be no lawsuits and they wouldn't need me. I'm putting myself out of business. Woohoo.
No, I get cited by plaintiffs' lawyers
Mm.
all the time. Uh, when I talk about what I think adjusters should be doing, the way I was trained back in, God, 1967, just a few years ago.
Mm.
Uh,
Last
and
month.
they don't do it anymore. If I would wanted to become one of those senior adjusters because they were making 10 grand a year and I could live like a king on 10 grand a year in those days. Uh, Heck, I was able to save money on Army salary so I could fly home half fare, but I lived on a lot of White Castle. You could get 10 White Castle hamburgers for $1. And it was filling. I don't know if it was nourishing, but it was filling.
Yeah, but you were in your
Uh,
20s, so it's okay. I mean, you had a
yeah.
high metabolism then. We can't do it
But,
now.
but when I went out on claims, I'd meet insureds who said, "Well, you really shouldn't have to pay for that old thing. We don't want our insurance company to have to pay for things we didn't need." I said, "But your policy says you're entitled to it, so I'm going to pay you anyway." Today, they try to find a way. First letter out is a reservation of rights, although they have no idea what they're reserving. And they're looking for a way to deny a claim. And then shortly thereafter, especially if it's a lot of money, they hire a lawyer to handle the adjustment. Lawyers are not adjusters. They're horrible adjusters. They look at it as a lawsuit, as an adversary proceeding. So if I
That's
teach
the
anyone
trick right
any,
there
yeah,
is
if I
that
teach you anything today, insurance claims is not an adversary proceeding. Adjusters and insureds are supposed to be working together for the exact same result.
yes.
And if you do that, there will never be a need for a public adjuster or for a lawyer. There won't be a need. But now all the good adjusters got fired, so they became public adjusters, and they're making a fortune on contingency fees.
Yeah.
Bill,
That's
you were
just it.
saying,
Yeah, I agreed 100% that this job as an adjuster is there to be provide a service to the policyholder and to be the intermediary between them and the policy so that you can explain to them what benefits they have under the policy. It should not be an adversarial thing.
No,
Now,
they're your friends. They're not your enemy, unless, of course, they set fire to their own house.
Sure.
Insurance, or they're faking something, or they throw in. I had one guy who claimed a bunch of diamonds burned up in his fire. Well,
that doesn't happen.
You know where diamonds are made? In volcanoes.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot burn a diamond in a house fire. It will turn black, and you clean it up by dropping the diamond in a glass full of sulfuric acid. And there's no loss. So we went and searched up the diamonds. And of course, since it was an arson, he salted the place with diamonds. Just a few little ones for us to find. The problem was they were all perfectly clean.
Oh no.
I mean, after the fire, the
Oh no.
and
Crooks are not smart. We all know that.
Time.
Yeah. Crooks are not smart.
Somebody actually arrested someone for arson for profit.
It's very rare. It's very rare. Usually what the departments of insurance will go after the agents who are taking money. It's because it's sexy, but fraud in and of itself for insurance claims is not sexy, because I do talk about, like, quoting you again, the soft fraud and the hard fraud, just adding a little something versus adding diamonds after the fire. I have 50 pairs of blue jeans versus 2, or adding diamonds after the fire.
Yeah, believe me, I've done a few of those, but I once went to Los Angeles. California has an interesting statute. It says that if the Department of Insurance refers a case to the district attorney must, in 60 days, advise the Department of Insurance and the insurance company of their decision on whether they're to prosecute or not. And I used that statute, went to see the prosecutors, and I had one confession under oath on the record, 4 corroborating statements under oath on the record, how the fraud had been perpetrated by moving a bunch of antiques under a hole in a roof when one of our rare rainstorms happened in Southern California. The DA turned the case down because there was insufficient evidence.
Wow.
Now, I can't think of any better evidence. So I said, thank you very much. We denied the claim. He never sued, and he never went to jail, but he should have. So life goes on. We just go on to the next case, and occasionally someone will get arrested.
Do you deal much with third-party cases and fraud where someone is faking an injury or something like that?
I did about 20 or 30 years ago. I've been a member of Southern California Fraud Investigators for almost 30 years. I'm a certified fraud examiner, so I actually do know about auto insurance fraud, but they're too small now for anyone to hire me as an expert, because I charge too much to make it worthwhile for a small auto insurance fraud, which is no fun, but that's life. I can advise. And every once in a while, insurance companies go absolutely nuts on auto claims and refuse to pay. Usually it's claims. They just don't like to pay their own insured money, who was wise enough to buy uninsured motorist limits equal to that they buy for the third party.
And that's an interesting dynamic there because that is where the insurance company and the policyholder actually do become kind of adverse to each other, don't they?
Oh, sure. They're clearly adverse because the insurance company is stepping into the shoes of the uninsured motorist instead of their own insured.
It's a very strange insurance product.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the industry has really figured out the best way to handle them. It's an odd dynamic because you got a policyholder paying a premium, and then all of a sudden you're at war with your customer. So
I just took on a case for an old friend, which means I'm not going to bill him until the case is over. But that has been totally mishandled by a insurer who did things that make absolutely no sense. And it sounds to me like some lawyer got a hold of the insurance company and told them to fight just so they could make the fees.
Mhm. Yeah, because I do have uh, I think a healthy fear of because of that dual role that the carrier plays. I mean, not only do we have the fiduciary duty to take care of our insureds, but we are also stepping in the shoes of that third party at fault carrier. But my thinking is, man, I don't want to get sued for bad faith. So I'm gonna kind of give the benefit of the doubt to the insured when it comes to uninsured motorists and take care of them. Not that I wouldn't for a claimant, because I also feel very, I guess, liberally, and this is again a different type of view. And I think Bill and I talked about it last podcast, where if we don't treat the claimant well, the claimant could file suit. You could end up with a excess verdict. Then you've got bad faith, or whatever. And so you're actually taking care of the insured by taking care of the claimant, like not lowballing, not just being mean just to be mean. Those sorts of things.
You should handle the claim just like you handle a normal BI auto claim. I used to have to, when I was a young lawyer, I defended a lot of claims for the insurer where the claim got to litigation. And they're no fun, but they're just another BI claim. And as long as you recognize that you're representing the third party as a defendant, you're representing the defendant on behalf of the insurance company. And then it's easy. You just deal with it the way you would deal with any other BI claim. Property claims are more fun because they're real. I've read more medical reports when I keep thinking about a lawyer I used to have to deal with who, if I saw his name on a case, we knew it was fraud.
Hmm.
And he was eventually arrested and about 120 counts of insurance fraud. And it took the LADA 10 years to get him to trial.
Wow.
And he filed a motion with the Court of Appeal saying that he lost his chance at a speedy trial under the Constitution. And the Court of Appeal noted that every delay was at the request of the defendant. And they fined his lawyer $50,000 for bringing the appeal. And he was eventually convicted of 10 counts of the 150 because most of the witnesses had died, moved away. And now he's working as a paralegal, doing the exact same kind of fraudulent claims.
Wow.
Kenneth Gottlieb is his name. He's in the courts in the appellate court, so I can use his name. He was fun. Kenny and I would negotiate claims. He had a chiropractor on staff who had every report was identical except for the name and address of the claimant. And we'd settle for small dollar amounts just to get rid of him because it wasn't worth litigating. And that's another problem in the industry. We will settle
Yeah.
on claims. I've had
It gets
clients
expensive.
told them it's an obvious fraud. We're going to win a trial, and they said, "Yeah, but look at all the money we saved by settling."
Yeah,
You know,
defense costs are huge, and if you get an expert witness of some sort in, it gets crazy pretty quick. And I
that's
mean, expert in terms of like an engineer,
Oh,
accident
okay.
reconstruction.
well,
Experts don't work cheap.
mm-mm,
And guess what? If you win, you get the expert's fees paid too. The
mhm.
plaintiff, if the plaintiff wins, his expert's fees are paid as well if they offered to settle before the trial.
Hmm.
What was, I had something and it was so appropriate, Bill. You had mentioned something and I was like, yes, that is exactly what I was going to say. And now it has completely lost my mind. So when Barry texts me at midnight tonight, because he remembers the name of the book, I'm going to text
Yeah.
him back with what I was going to say that was so appropriate and profound and earth-shaking that it's going to be fantastic.
It may be on one of my shelves in
Eh,
here.
it-
I,
it-
I tried to sell my law books.
mm,
I got offered $3 a yard.
I used to
My
work
law
in a law
library.
book library. They would buy law book libraries and then resell them across the country to public libraries.
No, now they sell them to restaurants as decorations,
Decorations, yeah.
glue them to the shelf
Yeah.
mm.
so you can't pick them up. They're
Yeah.
very decorative. I was in a restaurant, saw an old volume of Whisket, and I wanted to look at it, and I couldn't get it off the shelf.
There's a law office for sale, or actually for lease in the little town I live in, and it's a beautiful little office, and all the law books are still in there. They come with
Mm.
the building, so
All my law books are still here because I wouldn't sell them for $3 a yard, and they make a nice room divider, and they're pretty. And my son can occupy the other half of this building so that I at least get to see him, which I never did when I was a young lawyer. Now
Mhm.
he's almost 50. Yeah,
So,
he's 49 because my baby's 55,
oh my
6
goodness.
years apart.
Oh
wow.
my goodness gracious. That's crazy. How do you think I mean, we talked about how, and I totally agree. MBAs are now running insurance companies and
Oh,
they're trying to make it profitable. And what I've been talking about with my students is that we now look at insurance backwards, or we don't, we're starting with underwriting and selling insurance, but when people buy insurance, they're buying it for protection. So we should really start with claims and work backwards because we know how that endorsement doesn't actually work the way they wanted it to work, or that exclusion doesn't work the way they wanted it to work, or something to that effect. So what do you think besides the like MBA thing has changed? Because I don't feel, for example, the email or the text that Bill got because it, quote unquote, explaining his policy constitutes, you know, living
yeah.
up to the unfair claims practices. Because if Bill wasn't an adjuster, if Bill wasn't working in this industry, he wouldn't understand. And our job is to explain it. That's what it
Well,
says.
and those letters usually just put in long quotes from the policy
Thank you.
that are no help.
Well, to their credit, that claim was handled very efficiently, and there was no grief. There was no contact with a human being, but um, they paid the claim. I never even saw a check. It was very turnkey, the whole process. And it wasn't a huge collision claim, but
Yeah. If insurance companies want to start making money again, they should recognize their claims department is their profit center.
Frederick
Insurance
Fisher says
companies
that.
get business from good claims handling, and good claims handling gets subrogation recoveries that bad claims handling doesn't even consider, which even reduces your exposure. So I get very frustrated seeing claims handled badly. And I'm talking about claims where $250 million are involved. I mean, we're not talking minimal claims. To handle a $250 million or $400 million wildfire claim, earthquake claim from a telephone in a state 1,500 miles away from the loss location is difficult to understand. And certainly, when you pay the kind of premium you have to pay for that big a policy, you expect people to come and look and talk to you and hold your hand and tell you how to put things together, not send in 14 consultants from various fields to do all the work for you and give you a report 3 months later when the insured is sitting on a burned out hulk and needs to get back into business. That's what insurance is all about. God.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's a fairly common thing here to see a house. I mean, we have one just a few miles from my office here. A house burned over a year ago, and it's still not repaired. It's got a big tarp over it. There's a steel container in the yard, but nothing is happening.
yeah.
And I'm certain that there's a dispute with the insurance company at some level. Now,
And
granted,
probably
public.
didn't tell the insured that if they don't finish rebuilding within 2 years, they're only going to get ACV and will never get the full replacement cost.
Mhm.
These are the kinds of things. The first thing a good adjuster would do in that kind of situation is say, you've got a 2 year limit. We're extending it another year.
Sure. I've been in
Voluntarily,
those
without
scenarios.
requirement, we're waiving the condition
Yep.
because we're there to help you, not hurt you.
Yep. On the flip side, you do have public adjusters out there that are confounding things, and they, when they get into the mix, they can make some unreasonable demands, and that delays things as well. But if the delays are caused on the insured side, I completely agree. I'm sorry, if the delays are caused by an insurance company's delay, even a smidgen, then I think the carrier should be extending that 2 years.
Of course they should. Public adjusters, if I had a fire, I'd probably hire a public adjuster, but I'd know how to negotiate his fee down to 3%. Uh, I wouldn't pay 15. Some of the earthquake claims here were the contingency on the public adjusters was 40%.
40.
Wow.
40.
Is that
So
legal?
how do you rebuild?
Yes, you can't.
So, and I remember one public adjuster whose every claim included, every fire claim had 20 cans of Libby's peas. Every kitchen had 20 cans of Libby's peas. We took the UO of one of his insured. He says, I've never used Libby's peas in my life. I only used Del Monte. And I never had 20. And I have no idea. You say I lost a Lalique perfume bottle is on my list. I've never used Lalique perfume. Well, nobody has because there is no such thing as Lalique perfume, just the bottle. It's glass. It's famous glass.
Oh.
So we paid the insured her real loss and reported the PA, who is still making claims for 20 cans of Libby's peas, 20 pair of blue jeans. I think I have 10 because that's all I wear, but a couple of different sizes.
You wear peas? Is that what I heard?
No, blue jeans.
Oh, blue jeans. I misheard. I apologize. I thought we
Yes.
were still on the Libby's peas discussion.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing you pick up if you're adjusting claims in the same location for a little while. You keep seeing the same people with the same silly games.
Yeah.
And
The copy and paste.
okay, good try. Now let's talk about reality. And a good public adjuster will say, okay, it was a try. Let's talk about reality, and we'd settle. And the crooked ones should go to jail, but at best they lose their license, like that guy in Texas who just got put away.
Are you talking about Mosley?
Abba, I can't remember his name. It was
Oh, yeah, no. Mosley, I think, is still Matthew Mosley, I think, is still going on. He was the guy in Louisiana,
oh no, you're thinking of yeah,
MMA.
MMA. No.
Yeah, McClenny Mosley.
They did. I'm talking about a public adjuster who
Oh,
actually
oh,
was
oh,
dealing
yeah,
with
no,
it.
him. Yeah, I think you're right. His name was Abbott. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bill, do you know about
that's
him?
No.
yeah, that one's in Texas. No, I just keep reading about him. I've been on the MMA case now for since it started. I think my notes on it are in the oh God, I just did it another one. I do one every month in my newsletter, so it's up to about 25 or 30 renditions. The FBI is on the case, but they're doing what they normally do, friendly but incompetent. Uh,
So
Abbott.
what do you think about the Florida situation and all the litigation involved against insurance companies there and what it's doing, that in combination with the hurricanes is doing to the market there?
the problem is it's easy to cheat. It's easy to deal with insurance companies who have no staff in the state. You will get them to get a presentation, and rather than actually adjust a claim or bring in a CAT team, they'll pay whatever. There's an old legal maxim: hold them down to what they ask for, because sometimes that's better than you'll get if you don't. Uh, I once had a real bad faith case from a client who asked me to defend it to the end of the earth. And I read the file, and there's a note in the file from the underwriter that says, if the adjuster treated the insured as badly as he treated me, I can understand why they're suing. Now that's going to go out in discovery. So I called up the plaintiff's lawyer and I said, you're an experienced lawyer. You filed a lawsuit. How much do you want? And he said, $50,000. And I said, okay. And he said, you son of a biscuit maker. Because he knew I would have paid more. But he was an honorable man. He accepted the 50 and went away. That doesn't happen anymore. That was a long time ago. You're not, I mean, if you accept their demand, they'll change the demand.
Mhm. Yes, I've experienced that with a
And
PA.
that's why I stopped practicing law about when I turned 70, I think. Anyway, it was a long time ago because I couldn't stand dealing with that kind of lawyer on both sides.
Mhm.
It was just not worth the pain and suffering to my soul. So now I just write and occasionally testify on behalf of insurance companies if they're willing to pay my fee, and policyholders who for some reason are, because they bill. Some of these policyholder lawyers bill twice my normal rate to litigate. $1,200 an hour, $1,500 an hour is not unusual if you're representing, MGM or Paramount or
Well, yeah.
Exxon. You can charge them whatever you want and they will pay. I was never that kind of lawyer. I never made that kind of money, but I have no overhead. So you're looking at my entire international firm.
That's great.
Well, we're all self-employed consultants here, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's nice. The smartest move I ever made was firing everybody. I had a staff of 23 at one time, with 8 lawyers working for me, all of whom were very good liars about the work they did or didn't do. And then I fired everybody, and except my daughter, who eventually I had to fire her too because there was nothing for her to do. Because I type very well. I mean, the Army taught me I got up to 100 words a minute on an Underwood manual. So I can do everything now on this computer that I couldn't do anywhere else.
Well,
Oh,
Barry, I have a question for you
sure.
before we part ways here because we're running close to the hour here. Um, what do you think the most important thing is for adjusters to understand as they go through this career?
The most important thing is to understand that they are there to do a service. They are not lawyers, even if they have a law degree. And the ones who scare me the most are lawyers who are working as adjusters because they couldn't make a living as a lawyer or pass the bar. Uh, no, it's a service business. And if you can't do a service, if you aren't there to do a service, you're only there to fill out forms, write reports, and make your boss happy, then you're not an adjuster. Remember the meaning of the word. It isn't to hurt people or do anything other than adjust a claim. And that means if the insured asks for $20,000 for an IBM Selectric typewriter, you can tell him it's only worth $20 unless it's an antique. And then it might be worth 100. And we can work together to get the right prices for the right things that you lost. And if you have a fire and you claim that a big screen television burned up in the fire, but there's not a piece of it still in the house, somebody made a mistake. The fire department don't throw away melted metal. And there is no way to burn up so that it goes away a total house. Unless, unless you hit it with a flamethrower. And
Now,
even
Barry, when you say this is a service, just because there's going to be different types of adjusters listening, a lot of them are going to be independent adjusters, a lot of carrier adjusters.
yeah,
When you say service, service to whom? Just to clarify.
service to the insured and to the principal, because you're also serving an insurance company as an adjuster. The only adjusters who don't service the insurance companies are the public adjusters. They only have one claim. The insurance company adjuster is required to serve 2 masters, which is sometimes very difficult. But if you're in it to be fair and act in good faith and comply with all of the silly minimum standards set by the Fair Claims Practices regulations, you'll have no problem at all. When the first set of those regulations came out back in 1993 in California, all of the experienced adjusters laughed because it was too easy.
We're doing that
They
already.
always
Exactly.
did better than anything that was required by those regulations.
Yeah.
Now I can't get anybody to even close to complying with the 15-day response to a letter rule. come on, for God's sake, pick up the telephone and call. And if you can't call, send them an email, send them a text. Wake up. You're there to serve them, not to serve just one master. And as long as they understand that, they're going to have a wonderful time being a very professional adjuster. And if they don't, go to work at McDonald's.
It might not be for them. You're right. That dual role of serving both the insurance company and the policyholder. I think if you go through your career with that mindset, you're probably going to be, like you said, compliant with the bad faith statutes just by default, because you're not being.
I loved adjusting claims. I really had a good time. My father-in-law, rest his soul, when he found out I was an adjuster when I proposed to my wife now of 55 years, said, "You can't marry that bum. He doesn't have a real job." And that's why I went to law school, just to get him off my back.
It's interesting. I had a meeting, and one woman in the meeting, and this was all of insurance professionals. She said that she wanted to get rid of the word adjuster because it had a negative connotation. And I said, no, I totally disagree for the exact same reasons that you did, Barry, is that we are adjusters. We adjust the claim. We may say we owe you $5, and you may say you owe me 10, and so we adjust. You don't draw that line in the sand.
You settle for $7.50.
Exactly, because you do have that dual fiduciary duty. You've got the fiduciary duty to your insured, but then to the carrier who also represents all the other insureds. So you can't be like all, giving away the farm, so to speak, because that causes everybody else's premiums to go up. They don't want that to happen.
It's a fiduciary like, it is not a fiduciary duty. That's a very extreme duty. It is a good faith duty, a duty to be fair. But to be a fiduciary, it's like you're the executor of a will. And if the duty is very strong and it's almost impossible to maintain. The courts will use the word, but they always use it fiduciary-like.
Okay. This is good.
You don't want to overstate your obligation. Your
there you go.
obligation is to treat an insured fairly and in good faith. And that's been the law since 1776, when a case called Carter versus Beam was decided in the House of Lords.
Wow.
And it's been the law, and it's been cited by the U.S. Supreme Court in a case called Claflin versus, I can't remember the name of the insurance company. These cases, this duty of good faith has been bastardized by the legal community into a tort. I don't know how you change a contract. When I was in law school, you had the choice. You could sue in tort or in assumpsit, which is for breach of contract. It's just a contract. It's the easiest contract to read in Sesame Street English. Any fourth grader could understand it if they can read. And nobody will read it. I've deposed lawyers about their insurance policy, and they buy an E&O policy to protect themselves. I said, "Did you read it?" "No. Why would I read an insurance policy?" "Well, maybe because you should report your losses when you find out about them, so you don't lose like Harvard University did by giving up a multi-million-dollar claim by reporting it late." I'm Harvard. Mensa members I once gave a talk to a Mensa group, 150 Mensa members in the audience. I said, who here has read their insurance policy? 2 hands went up.
Oh my gosh.
Did you understand it? Neither of them. Now, these are all certified geniuses.
Well, they just don't know how fun it is to read an
I
insurance
know,
policy. It's like
right?
a party.
I mean, and
The
then
reason
fortunately
it's
we're out of time.
Yeah,
So
the reason it's fun to read it is because you have facts to apply to the contract language.
yes. But we are out of time. So
Okay.
Barry, are you going to be speaking anywhere else? Do you have a new book
Yeah,
coming out?
I'll be speaking Southern California Fraud Investigators Association in November on the examination under oath and why insurance companies should never pay a dime for tribute and millions for defense. And that's about it. I'm on video every day. So I think there's over 4,850 blog posts, and most of those are on video.
Wow.
And the books are, the latest one will be updated next year.
I told some adjusters when I was a claims manager, if you watch Barry's blogs, like within a year, I think this was one of your quotes. I think like you'll almost be an expert, basically. I mean, like you will know a lot. So again, we are going to list all of those websites and everything for everybody in the show notes. Go out there, start watching, follow him on LinkedIn, get his newsletter, subscribe to his Patreon and everything like that. Seriously, guys, he is
I only
absolutely
charge
fabulous.
for Substack, and that's
Yes, Substack.
$5 a month.
There you go.
Everything else is free because I don't want to pay the government any more money and increase my income.
There you go. Barry, thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you, Barry.
And give me a call anytime. I will give advice, but free advice is worth everything you pay for it.
All right. Well, we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us on the Art of Adjusting podcast, where we talk about life as an insurance adjuster.
If you enjoyed this podcast or this episode, please give us 5 stars and a review. It does help the algorithm pick us up.
Hit that subscribe button real quick and tell all of your adjuster friends to check this out as well. For independent adjusting services, go to www.auten.claims. And for anyone interested in working as an independent liability adjuster, go to the Contact Us tab to join our roster. In the meantime, you can contact me at theartofadjusting.com for consulting and training purposes.